Most people suck at writing. And the worst part is, they don't even know why. You see, everyone thinks writing is just this very easy thing because they've been doing it for years. But what if the way you were taught to write as a kid is completely wrong? What if everything you know about good writing is a lie? And what if you're making millions of mistakes when you try to write your content and are completely oblivious to all of the mistakes you're making? Well, in this video, I'm going to make sure you avoid all of those mistakes so you stop wasting your time. Although I'm not going to give you a million things, I am going to give you 5. I see these mistakes all over the internet. It doesn't matter if it's Medium, Twitter, LinkedIn, Quora, YouTube, blogs, they're everywhere. And I promise that if you avoid making these mistakes, you will quickly be on your way to becoming a top 1% writer on the internet. But first, why should you listen to me? From your perspective, I'm just some random guy on the internet, right? Wrong. You see, I've been writing online for almost 3 years now. I may not be a household name yet, but I have written over 640 articles on Medium. I have grown to over 27,000 followers, and I've made thousands of dollars online. So trust me, when it comes to writing, I do know what I'm talking about. With that out the way, let's get into the first mistake. Number 1, being too idealistic. Okay, so what does this mean? Simply put, a lot of aspiring writers feel like they're owed something. They think they're geniuses and believe it's only a matter of time before the rest of the world recognizes how amazing they are. The problem is, this is peak delusion. In reality, you need to be a lot more practical when you're writing content on the internet. If you want to be a poor poet for the rest of your life, then just keep doing what you're doing. Who knows? Maybe it is genius. But if your goal is to grow an audience online, become financially free, and set up the foundations to do whatever you want, you need to have a different approach. Because the truth is, on the internet, it's a lot better to be useful than impressive. Sure, some people might love the way you string sentences together. You might be the poetry goat, for all I care. But these people are not going to take you seriously when you try to sell them something. When you try to sell them a poetry course or a sentence stringing course. They're going to laugh you out the room. Or worse, they're going to call you a scammer. They're going to say you sold out. To avoid this, you need to set the tone early on by creating useful, practical, and helpful content. Offer advice that you're qualified to give. Tell stories that relate to the things you're most passionate about and make it relevant to the thing you're discussing. Give step-by-step instructions that helped you achieve a desired result. If you don't like this, look, I don't make the rules, okay? I'm just observing what I see. I wish I could just publish my screenplays on Medium and get recognized by a Hollywood producer. But it doesn't work like that. This is not how the world works. This is fantasy. If I was to enthusiastically post my latest screenplay on Medium, it wouldn't blow up. It wouldn't get recognized. It's not going to become the next Pulp Fiction. Why? Because people won't read it. People on the internet do not want to read my screenplay. Why should they? That's not what they're there for. They're not going on social media to read my screenplay. They're going on social media to solve their problems. It doesn't matter how good my screenplay is. I could have written the greatest screenplay in the history of the universe, and people would still not read it if I posted it online. Nor should I expect them to. Why? Because people are on the internet, on social media, to find solutions to their problems, not to read my screenplay. They want to be alleviated from suffering and boredom. They have questions and are looking for answers. In short, they're selfish. But you shouldn't complain about this. This isn't a bad thing. This is just the way it is. And as a result, this is the role your writing has to serve when you're writing to grow an audience on social media. Don't worry though, this doesn't mean you can't write creative things that you're passionate about. By all means, still write that stuff. I'm just saying, when you're writing on social media, you need to have this other perspective in mind. You need to understand the psychology of your readers, what they're actually looking for. In a nutshell, you need to approach the way you write on social media differently. You need to be problem and solution oriented as opposed to just pure creativity. There's definitely a place for it. Still be as creative as possible. Just keep this in mind when you're trying to create content to grow an audience. Next mistake. Number 2. Lacking conviction. So imagine you're a Hollywood producer looking for a script to create your next mega blockbuster. You have 2 meetings with 2 different writers with 2 different stories. One writer believes in his story. He loves his story. He can see the characters, and when he speaks about it, the producer can see the passion burning in his eyes. He believes in this story. He's so convicted, and this conviction is translating into the producer, so much so that the producer wants to make this movie. On the other hand, the other writer doesn't seem to be that bothered about the story. The characters are pretty unoriginal. The script isn't anything new. The only thing this writer is passionate about is the potential money it's going to make. Given these 2 choices, which film do you think the producer is going to want to make? The answer is obvious, right? The same applies to how you should write your content. Because if you don't write with conviction, your readers aren't going to take you seriously. Think about it. If you don't take what you're saying seriously, why should anyone else? To be an authority, you need to write with conviction. Not maybe this, perhaps that, but also sometimes this. No, it's this, it's that, and that's the way it is. Now, this is actually a really powerful psychological tool, so I can't go into too much detail here. If you want to learn more about it as well as a lot more, click the first link in the description and sign up for my free magnetic writing guide. But just as a quick example, do me a favor and look at the world around you. Don't people believe the craziest things? I mean, there are people who think the world is flat. There are people who believe that vaccinations cause autism. There are people who believe that the other political party is spawn of Satan. There are people who believe in lizard overlords. And no doubt loads of other things that I'm not even in the loop on. The point is, people believe the craziest, most mental things. Do you know why this is the case? It's conviction. Try and tell a flat earther that they're wrong. Just go ahead and try. Go see how they react to you challenging their worldview. Some of these people are so convinced that they're right, they can convince people with weaker convictions to believe in what they believe because of how confident they are. Conviction is that powerful. Now, obviously, don't take this the wrong way. I don't want you to become a delusional cult leader. All I'm saying is conviction is extremely powerful and can make humans believe in the most mental things. Now imagine what you could do if you wrote with conviction about something that was genuinely helpful. It's worth considering. Now let's talk about mistake number 3, and pay attention to this one, because if you don't make this mistake, you will have the biggest edge over everyone else who's trying to write online. What is it? Simple. Relying on AI. I started writing on Medium just as the AI boom was exploding, and I can't lie, I was mesmerized and I was using it as much as possible. I loved it. I found it fascinating. But with that said, I never got ChatGPT to generate a piece of content, post it on social media, and pretend as if I wrote it. I never did that. When I first started, I'd just use it for prompts. So I'd say, write an article on X topic in the voice of Y person. And then I would edit it, I'd change bits, I'd add my own bits. And then when I was satisfied, I'd upload it as my own work. I only did this a few times because it got a bit boring. But that's not what most people do. Most people go on ChatGPT, they say write an article, they copy, they paste it into a social media site, and they post it. And it's so obvious. People who've only spent 2 minutes on ChatGPT can recognize when a piece of content has been made by ChatGPT. It's so obvious. And yet, so many people do it. And this is by far the biggest mistake I see people making when they want to start writing. If you can write from the heart, learn basic writing fundamentals, practice and develop your own writing style and voice, you will always outperform the lazy losers who rely on AI to do all the work for them. And it's important that you do this now, because AI is going to become more and more popular as the years go by. For you to stand out, you need to avoid jumping on the bandwagon at all costs. Why? Because by learning to write yourself, you will become irreplaceable. This is not possible for the people who write with AI. The people who use AI to write for them will just merge into one massive block of mediocrity. You won't be able to distinguish anyone from each other. They will all just sound the same. They'll all talk about the same things, and it'll all be the AI just becoming more and more powerful. This isn't a sci-fi film, but it is essentially what will happen. The way you avoid this, the way you get ahead of this, is by writing from the heart, writing with your own voice, learning how to write yourself, and think for yourself, more importantly. Now, does this mean you can't use AI? Of course not. I use ChatGPT, like the paid version, every day, but I don't use it to generate content. That's the massive difference. I write something myself, I share it with ChatGPT, I try and get different perspectives, I bounce ideas off it, and then I use it to make my content better, more in-depth. I don't use it for the content itself. And this is what most beginner writers do, and it's so obvious and so cringe. It's so cringe. So don't be cringe, okay? Don't make this mistake. Use AI, but use it properly. Don't rely on it. If you do this, the sky is the limit for you as a digital writer moving forward into the future. Now, mistake number 4. Writing hard-to-read essays, not short and simple sentences. To demonstrate this mistake, let's go back in time for a second. When you were at school, you must have written loads of essays, right? So imagine you're back in history class, and you and your class have just completed an essay for an exam. You guys finish up, you take all the papers, and you leave it in a nice neat pile on your teacher's desk. Now let's put you in your teacher's shoes for a second. Do you think your teacher is looking forward to reading and marking essay after essay, all with these big long paragraphs that go on forever? No, right? Unless your teacher is a psychopath, they're not going to like going through reading all that stuff. The exact same thing applies to you when you're writing content. When a reader online clicks on a piece of content and just sees a massive wall of text, they're taken back to history class. They don't want to read that. That's the last thing they want to do. Instead, you're much better off writing in short, simple, and easy to understand sentences, not massive paragraphs. This is very counterintuitive because that is what we were taught at school. We were taught to write in paragraphs. We were taught to write loads of words, and the longer the paragraph, the better. Don't write in short, simple sentences. What's wrong with you? That's what we were taught. But counterintuitively, when you start writing online, you realize you need to do the exact opposite. If you write in very difficult to understand language and in big, chunky pieces of text, you're going to alienate a lot of potential readers. To overcome this, you write in short sentences. This is one of the first things you learn when you start studying copywriting, and the exact same principle applies to content. But full disclosure, some people will not like this. Every single one of my 640 plus Medium articles is written in short sentences. I very rarely write in paragraphs. And I do have some people sometimes leave comments saying, "Hey bro, do you know what a paragraph is?" And it's quite amusing because, yeah, I know what a paragraph is, but I don't want to write in them because it alienates a lot of people who could read the thing. But, does this upset me? Like, absolutely not. It's not my problem if some boomers in the world are used to reading intellectual and academic articles and aren't fans of my content. Like, that's fine. Why? Because while no one reads their content, I've had almost 1 million people read mine. And that is mainly down to the very superficial style of writing short sentences compared to long paragraphs. Trust me, it makes a big difference. If I didn't write in a way that was easy to understand, there's no way I would have achieved the same level of results that I have. It would be impossible. This will take some time to get used to, but you have to develop this practice if you want to grow an audience online. No ifs, no buts. Now, let's move on to the last mistake. And this is definitely the one that holds most writers back. And what's crazy is, it's the easiest one to solve. Number 5. Not writing enough. Now, look, I'm not saying you have to write every single day and you need to post 20 times a day like Gary Vee. I'm not saying that. Although, if you did, you would have a very successful creator career. No doubt about it in my mind whatsoever. If you did write every day, post every day, and did it for the rest of your life, you'd have one of the greatest brands on the internet. But look, it's not for everyone. And I'm not saying you have to do that. The problem I see with most beginners is they start writing, they get quite excited, they get on a hot streak. That might last a couple of weeks, but then when they don't see the immediate results, they lose hope and give up. This is not a good way to approach writing. Like, when you first start off, you're much better off easing yourself into it as opposed to trying to bite off more than you can chew. Don't begin your writing journey and commit to writing 1,000 words every day if you've never done it before. Instead of aiming for 1,000, just aim for 100. If you go and look at my very first Medium articles, you'll see that they're not very long. Like, there might be a few hundred words, 300, 400, maybe maximum 500. But within a few months of writing consistently every day, I could easily sit down and write 6,000 words without even breaking a sweat. But I didn't get to that point overnight. I had to develop myself to get to that level. Without starting small, I never could have reached that level of output. It wouldn't have happened. And as a beginner, all you have to do is start developing the habit. That's it. That is the most important thing. Everything falls into place after you develop the consistent habit. It doesn't matter how small you start. All that matters is you dedicate a fraction of time every day to doing some writing. That's all you have to do when you first start. When I first started, I did commit to writing and posting every day for an indefinite amount of time. I don't know how long I actually kept that up for, but I do know that I wrote every day for 8 months straight before I reached my first 1,000 followers on Medium. Do you have to do what I did? Of course not. You don't have to do that. But I do know that writing and posting every day drastically improved my skill as a writer. Although I didn't get incredible results for quite a long time, I did build up the writing habit, and I did develop a lot of confidence in myself to be able to create and express myself. Before doing that, I wasn't even sure I could be a writer. I was filled with anxieties and doubts. I didn't know it was possible that I could even write online. Like, I knew it was technologically possible. I knew it was physically possible. But until I actually did it, I didn't realize it was possible for me. But after posting every day for a year, do you think I still had doubts? Do you think I still had worries, fears? Honestly, the fear of actually posting and putting myself out there vanished very quickly. I think it vanished within the first few weeks even. So if you're a beginner, make sure you don't make the mistake of not writing enough. Remember, writers write. And on that note, I'm going to end the video here. I hope you got value from this video. Also, if you want to learn how to start integrating psychology into the way you write, click the first link in the description and sign up for my magnetic writing guide. It's free, it's good, it teaches you everything you need to know about psychology and influence, and I think you'll get a lot out of it. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.